اختیار من همه همش با تو چقدر مثل عشقی نمیمونی خیلی هم عشقی خودت نمیدونی به من احساس حال کم باشه بذار غم هاتم مال خودم باشه من که با تو راحتم دوست ندارم یه ساعتم بیام از فکر تو بیرون واسه دوست داشتن تو جور بی نهایتم عاشقم از تو چه پنهون.
So we just listened to Davaa by Amirabbas Golab. And I think based on what the song sounded like, I think I can take a wild guess and say that this isn't quite traditional. This might be a bit of a shift from most of the songs that we've been listening to earlier. So Yassi, why don't you tell us what is going on in this one? Maybe translate a few of the lyrics, and just give us a brief breakdown.
Yeah, so the song is called Davaa, which means fight. And you're totally right. It's not traditional at all. It's super modern. It's super upbeat and clubby, I guess you could say. And it's more like explicit. And it's the whole thing is about like start to Davos, Spain, a dedo aklan, which means there's a fight about you between my head and my heart. And he's just thinking about how this girl has like driven him crazy, basically. And it's a lot of people are listening to it right now. It's very popular, and everyone's like kind of like listening to it and dancing and playing it at parties. So it's super modern.
I'm guessing that this is, obviously a club song, right? So since we're speaking about clubs, can you tell us a little bit about what nightlife is like in Iran?
It doesn't exist. That's like
That was my wild guess. Yeah.
it's called the Islamic Republic of Iran, so we don't really have
Yeah.
but I probably shouldn't be saying this, but a lot of people have like house parties on the down low, and like a lot of people like smuggle alcohol into the country, and some people even make their own, which is super dangerous. And a lot of people have these parties at home. Basically, when we had a war like ages ago, a lot of people have like undergrounds in their houses. It's like an underground space, so a lot of these parties take place underground. So
Interesting.
yeah, well, some of them are just at home, but some of them want to be like different. It's like, oh, like let's all go underground.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Bunker party.
and like you definitely hear a song like this at these parties.
And how widespread or what is the extent to this underground scene? Like, are pretty much all of the young people involved in underground scenes, or is it only like limited to a specific sect of the
No, it's
population?
very things everyone knows it happens, first of all. Everyone. Like and a lot of people do it, say from the ages of like 20 to like 40. You're like involved in it if you're like into that. Obviously, if you're from a more traditional and religious household, that's a little bit more difficult. But it's very popular amongst the younger generation, like our generation actually. And like a lot of people like our age is actually moving away from the whole like traditional aspect of like following the rules, like waiting to get married with like your parents' permission or like going out and stuff. Like a lot of people just want to be free now, and so within the younger generation, it's a big thing.
So, obviously, since there are like no clubs and like no like official nightlife going on in Iran, does that mean like are songs like this? Like, is there a lot of music that's like this one?
Yeah, there's a lot of music that is like this, and a lot of them are very like upbeat and explicit and have like a lot of we call it like doop stoop songs, which is really weird. That's
Sorry, what doop doop songs?
Stoop stoop?
Doop stoops. That's what they
Doops
refer these
doops.
songs as. Like the
Ah,
club.
right, of course, because you go into the room and it's like doops doops doops. Yeah, I
Yeah,
get it.
yeah, that's like what they refer to it as. Um, but yeah, it's just how we, party, I guess.
Hmm. So this is actually really interesting. So there's like this whole genre basically of what's essentially like club music, and it's catering to what's like a non-existent market, right? So
Yeah, I guess.
like kind of like linking back to what you were saying earlier about the fact that everyone knows that these underground parties are happening all the time.
Yeah.
So like, would it be right to say that people are making music like specifically for this market that's like illegal?
Um, well, I wouldn't say it's a market, like whether you're having a party or not. Sometimes you want to listen to like upbeat songs and like, so
Hmm.
it's not necessarily catering towards that, but because those type of songs like exist anyway.
Hmm.
Um, but it's I guess it definitely does help because those are like, I don't know. I wouldn't like say the underground scene didn't exist. These songs would still exist, you know.
Right. Right.
So like it's not just like catering to that. And that whole like partying thing is actually like a very new thing. It wasn't like a thing like 10 years ago. Like it's like a growing thing. It's like it's become like popular in the last like 5, 6 years.
Oh, so this is like a very recent thing,
Yeah,
like
like it
these
wasn't.
like basement parties and stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't really a thing before. If someone wants to have a party, it's very common for people in Iran to also own farms, like outside the city. It's like a thing.
Hmm.
So, like, if you want to have a party, you just go there. You have like a big thing, and it's like a very new thing that people are having it inside their houses in the city.
Hmm. Interesting. Are these just out of curiosity? Are these parties like technically legal?
No.
Hmm.
Well,
Like
because
assume there's like no alcohol, nothing nasty. If it's just like a bunch of people getting together and blasting music and stuff.
well,
Like, is
no,
is
because
that fine?
girls are meant to cover in front of a guy, right?
Ah, right, yeah.
Right. So, if it's just like an old boys party and if it's all girls party, that's totally fine. Don't get
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
me wrong. Like if a girl is having a birthday party and she wants to blast out these musics and with a bunch of girls, totally chill. It's when they mix that's not allowed.
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
Yeah.
And does this particular artist perform at all or have any concerts happening in either outside of Iran or inside of Iran?
A lot of these artists have concerts in Turkey because it's really easy to get to
Hmm.
Turkey from Iran. So
So people will go from Iran to Turkey to listen to him.
yeah, yeah. And it's the same with like singers like Ora. She's like a huge Iranian pop singer. He does like a lot of collabs. He did like a collab with Marshmello and Snoop Dogg. And so like
Oh,
yeah, so he's super popular amongst them too and he has like a lot of concerts in Turkey. So it's just easy to get to there, I guess.
Hmm.
hmm.
Uh, do like I'm sorry, this is like a stupid question because I just don't know.
Good question.
Are there concerts in Iran at all? Like,
Oh yeah, for sure. There are so many.
but just like not this kind, right?
Yeah, not the kind that like everyone's dancing and whatever. Like it's a lot more like civilized and you sit down and you
Hmm.
appreciate the music, like but then again, like it's actually really cool. Like it sounds really boring, but it's actually really good. Like I went to one a few years ago and it was about this traditional band that weren't actually allowed in the country before. And it was their first time
Hmm.
performing since being allowed back in and it was like this big thing. There's this really tall building in Tehran. It's called don't remember what it's called right now, but it's like the famous building.
Yeah.
They had that concert like right under there, and like literally the entire city was there. It was crazy, and
Wow.
everyone just wanted to hear them play and sing, and it was actually really, really good. So you do have concerts. It's just not the type that everyone's like jumping up and down and screaming.
That sounds like there's this one gig that I went to, for like this relatively old band. So most of the people that were attending were like all these like middle-aged folk because it's like their time, right? So when I attended that concert, it was literally just like a bunch of people just standing around because they didn't have the energy to like jump up and down or anything. I'm getting like lots of like that kind of vibe like from what you're describing to me.
No, like obviously people want to. It's just that like it just has to be a little bit more like civilized. Because first of all, the thing that like I went to, it was like televised, and if you wanna, and a lot of the channels are national channels, so they're only like showing things that are like appropriate, and so in that sense, no one could actually like scream and whatever. But a lot of times, if people knew the songs, they would sing along and like they would try to interact with the crowd. It wasn't like the audience was hushed and sat down. You know what I mean?
Right.
And have these concerts that you mentioned that are legal and are much more quote unquote civilized, has there been a shift at all in type of music that's been performed for them, like from traditional to what you might characterize as more contemporary music being played at the concerts?
You mean like modernish music?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
is
Well, yeah. So there was a concert once where they like kind of split the men and women, and so like you were listening to the same thing, you could see the same person. It was just like they could dance freely, kind of thing. And so you do have like modern singers, but like it's just it has to be a singer who doesn't have super explicit lyrics. Deemed as inappropriate, but like say someone like Yihom, his lyrics are about love and about a person, but they're not explicit, so that would be okay. You know what I mean?
Right. Understand.
so
So I'm guessing that it's for artists like Amirabbas Golab, like if artists like this were to hold a concert, since they have to basically go to like Turkey or something to perform, right?
Yeah.
Is it like very commonplace for Iranians to like travel to Turkey for
Oh, it's
gigs or
super
whatever?
common. Like it's insanely
Mm.
common. Like there's this new not new there's this channel called Manoto, and it's like an Iranian channel that's based in England, and they always talk about all these shows that are happening in Turkey, and it's always advertised. Like you always know when it's gonna happen,
Hmm.
and a lot of people go. So
Interesting. All right, so I suppose moving on, that was Davaa, Davaa, by Amirabbas Golab. Yasi, what are we going to be listening to next?
I think we can listen to Mohsen Chavushi, Biseza Orzu.
all right, that sounds good. So here is Beast Hazar Arezu